Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I'm your host, Catryn Becker. On this podcast, we interview people from all different types of industries, profession, roles, all along the socioeconomic ladder, because we want to learn what they have learned along their journey. Because we believe here that while a smart person learns from their mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. So we interview these people so we can understand what they've gone through, so we can either avoid those mistakes completely or so that we can fail faster. So it is quite an honor for today's guest. She is a friend of mine that I've had the pleasure of spending many different days and dinners with at conferences all across the world. Her name is Bonnie Laslo, and she was financially free at the age of 23, made her first million at the age of 26, and has just been going nonstop ever since then. You might know her as the hobby millionaire, but Bonnie Laslo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, I think the first thing that I want to talk about is your attitude and mindset. You have got such a beautiful way of looking at the world and seeing it. And I think it has to be such a pillar of why you've been so successful in your life. I think it's so great that you're just like, yeah, things happen and you just roll with it. And
Yep.
I want to hear more about kind of your, ethos around that, but also where did it come from? Is it something you always had or did you learn it?
I learned it. So whenever I was, to this day, I even recall where I learned it from, right? So Wayne Dyer at like 18. So whenever I was going to and from job sites and everything, as I was, fixing properties and apartment complexes and houses, I had one of the CDs at the time, right? I know, right? I'm aging myself, but I would play it over and over again. And when you change the way you look at things, the things around you change, right? So as I'm going through my first eviction, let's say, and I couldn't sleep at night, or I was going through having money taken from me from a contractor, right? Like all of these, I started noticing like were causing me pain and distraught and lack of sleep and everything. And I really took it to heart. And I'm like, hold on a minute. So I'm being, put through these scenarios and everything so that I get to learn from them. And I can go ahead and teach people just like your listeners and everybody in the RIA clubs and anyone that surrounds me so that they can understand that going through that process with a different mindset and a different perspective, but also leaning into your fellow groups, your fellow investors, and your community, your network, with being able to go through the process with you allows them to learn, but it also makes you feel better. You'll get some sleep, when you look at it and you're just like, oh, cool, I got that, experience underneath my, belt and everything. Oh, okay, well, this is chapter 2 of learning how this all works. So any eviction, any type of downfall per se people would look at, it's literally, oh, I got that t-shirt, I got that t-shirt too. So yeah, and so you look at it as simply as that, because we get to create the story, because everything is a neutral event in life, everything. And what story you decide to tell yourself, or I get to tell myself, is going to determine if I'm going to have a good day or not. So I keep it just as simple as that.
And it's so beautifully put how you said it. But I think the thing that really stands out to me is your willingness to share it with others.
Yeah.
You are so generous with your time and your knowledge. And I feel like, especially at such a young age, like at 26, our brains are barely fully developed. Most people have no idea what they want to do. They're still just kind of like scrambling for like, what is this life thing that I'm doing? And yet here you were making millions and being so open and having such an abundance mindset to be like, it's easy, guys. Everyone can do it. Let me show you how.
Yeah. And, I made a vow to myself that I was going to learn from millionaires. So whenever I was going through college, right, and I was just looking around, and it really hit me that the professors that were there could only teach me how to make, as much wealth, I guess, that they have created. And then I'm like, okay, well, I can learn a certain bit from them, but I can also learn the rest of it from millionaires and just be a sponge for knowledge, right? And so when I started superseding the income of my professors it really got a little difficult, just to be able to balance what information I'm going to actually take action on. And, I didn't have the networks, the clubs, and the meetups, right? Like I just didn't have that, in college. Like things weren't so easily online. We're coming into a whole nother, arena. I think laptops were just kind of coming out. Some people had them, some people didn't. Like thousands of dollars, right? So, I was in essence learning from going to Lowe's and Home Depot classes and literally getting into a profession where I was getting paid to learn. So I got my first job like at an apartment complex, and I pretended it was mine so that I could learn every aspect of it and learn from their mistakes, learn from, their wins and successes. And I remember, because it was so painful going through it by myself, and being able to create, the group of investors and being generous with your time, I think it's naturally easy for me because it was such a painful experience going through that at such a young age by yourself, right? So the moment I started plugging into learning from millionaires, it gave me that confidence. It gave me that acknowledgement that I was on the right track, that I was doing the right things, because you have a multitude of different activities you could spend your time on during the day. And I was just listening to the millionaires and literally following their recommendations like a recipe.
So for the regular person, I mean, I never even thought about it until, recent history, but I definitely never thought about it in my 20s of how do I even find a millionaire? Like, what does that even look like? And I imagine for today's youth, it's so much easier. There's so much more access, just having YouTube and being able to go and find all these videos. And even from, past mentors that have maybe passed on or up in age, you can still find older content. How did you find it at the time? And, what made you even think like to go do that?
Because I remember thinking about how do I want to spend my life? So I was pre-med, right? And then I went through a bunch, like soul searching of what I wanted to spend my life doing, right? And do I want to be a pharmacist and be in a room counting pills all day? Do I want to be, and I actually went to shadow like a ER doctor. He was nice enough to allow me to shadow from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning. And
oh, wow, overnight.
Overnight, yes. And I was logging and journaling because I was learning from wealthy people and what they were doing. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Like all these people have the same amount of time that I do. So let me just replicate what activities they're doing. And so initially, I think that as a young person, I'm thinking lawyer, doctor, right? Like those are the people that have the money. So I started surrounding myself around lawyers and doctors. And then I started seeing, okay, do I want to spend my time like arguing with people all day as an attorney per se, or dealing with those kinds of things? Or do I want to be in a healthcare profession where I see people dying all the time? Like I'm a pretty empathetic person, like I really feel and I can place myself into other people's shoes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll become so desensitized and I don't know if I'll still have feelings anymore as a human being. You know what I mean? And so I started looking to see what they had in common. And every single person had real estate, and there's a difference between a real estate agent and a real estate investor. And so when I started going down that rabbit hole, that's when I saw 90% of the millionaires in the world are through real estate, right? So everybody gets to play the game, even if it's just the game of being in the house that you're living in and moving every 2 years, because 2 years in a day, all that upside is all tax-free, right? So you end up moving 3 to 5 times and you've got a paid off house versus waiting 30 years to have it done, right? And, because I, at a very young age, was able to be around, retirement people, whatnot. I remember going to the country club and hanging out with a bunch of people that retired because this is what it's supposed to look like. I have arrived. This is what. And so I started asking all these people like how they got there. And, it was interesting because every single one of them had like a cash machine that was like the working income, but all of the passive stuff, every single bit of it was all real estate. And every single one of those people at the country club had a paid off house. And so I was like, there must be something to that. And And so I looked at doing that to replicate to see what that is. And it's because you have that extra expendable cash. So whenever you end up no longer having a mortgage payment and you have that extra income right there, and you use that as, investing in a golden goose that lays golden eggs, right? Never touch the goose, only spend the golden eggs.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I looked at it. So once I no longer had that, or once I figured that part out, then it was very easy to be around other people to just work on that as being a goal with myself and with others. And it was a fun game, because I played a game. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a car, right? I had initially I think my first car was like a $2,000, beater kind of thing. And I wanted to get a new car, which would be the first thing I bought that, actually cost me money. And I remember it was $600 monthly payment. And so I knew that I had to buy 3 houses to pay for that monthly payment. So I've always played that game with myself of, oh, well, let me go get 3 houses and then I get to reward myself, with a car. Or let me go and do this and then I can reward myself with a vacation, right? And a lot of people just kind of do it backwards, right? They end up getting themselves in debt, trying to figure out how they're gonna, get themselves out. Or, making other choices that, you have options to make different ones and have a game to play. And I don't know, I found it more gratifying to do it that way.
I'd like to just, for the listener who doesn't really know what a real estate investor is, and this has been kind of top of mind for me because you and I just attended the real estate masters with our common coach JT Fox and Phil Grove. And as I was, telling people the last couple of days what I had attended and what I had learned from it and all these great things, everyone was like, oh, like real estate agents and mortgage houses and title companies. And I was like, well, they might have been there, but not really. So
there's a
go
service
through a little
provider.
bit the difference of what a real estate investor is.
Yeah, those are service providers. They're not really real estate investors, they're service providers. And whenever you're looking at, being a real estate investor, keep it simple. I mean, everyone has pretty much rented an apartment or rented a house, right? And so I'm called the hobby millionaire because I teach people how to do real estate as a hobby, and then they can decide if they want to take it up a notch. So I'm like the person taking individuals from 0 over to actually having like 5 units in their portfolio, because after that happens, it's like wildfire. You get it, or you decide to like stop at 5, or you start replicating and then you go to 10 and then you go to 20. And stuff like that. So I've been successful with recreating myself, right? And getting those results out of individuals, but you do get to understand the difference, right? So whenever you are using your time in a cash machine position, like title agencies or real estate agents, that's just like your working income. But when you take that money and let's say that you purchase your own house. Okay. So first things first, owning your own house so that rent income isn't going down the toilet for you, right? Granted, it's coming into the pocket of, landlords like myself or, investors like myself, but you have to understand like how that really works. You can provide that same housing service, right? Because everyone needs it. Just like lawyers and doctors, right? Everyone's going to keep getting sick. Everyone's going to have disputes or legal, needs, but guess what? Everyone's going to need housing. And so that's how I started looking at it, is it's a need. It's not like a gym membership where you can just get rid of it tomorrow kind of thing. And so when you take your time as a hobby, instead of it being watching Netflix or, playing video games or going out to happy hour or using it on absorbing so much entertainment, right? When you use that to actually do real estate investing itself, so using your extra money to purchase the house that you're in, let's say, then that small down payment, whether you get it no money down or 3% down with FHA loans or, whatever that kind of looks like, just know that you're taking that down payment money and you're actually probably doubling it, 100% return, right? Like what bank
Right.
can you go and put $5,000 down into and have it give you back 100%, right? And so that's the thing. Instead of having that extra entertainment money or whatever it was, I was putting them into the houses because they were generating back like 100% returns, 50% returns versus the 1% in the savings account. But also, I was investing in the golden gooses and they were laying those golden eggs. And so I would make sure to never touch the goose and always pretty much spend the golden eggs if I was going to spend it on stuff that wasn't income producing. But I was very good at taking those golden eggs and throwing them back in, and throwing it, keeping to churn it. And what happens is you get to live a real estate investor life. You get to go to conferences. You get to have your friends also be like-minded business real estate professionals. And then you get to do it in cool places. So instead of just going to Hawaii to kick back and have margaritas, we went to top 1% in Hawaii to learn, network, be around really great people. And you're doing business. You just happen to be doing it in some beautiful places so that when you, end off for working for the day or networking or doing business for the day, then you get to have, beautiful sceneries and stuff to enjoy. And I've always been able to kind of do the both and real estate investing is really, a profession where you start learning how to optimize your time and being able to see how to always be efficient with your money, with your resources, with your time, with people, right?
And I think the thing that's so great about what you were saying there about when you're with the right people, I mean, even if you're doing business deals and networking, like that's really enjoyable with the right people.
Yes, it is. Save yourself a lot of grief because, if you were in a room full of people complaining all the time or talking about other people's, celebrity lives, let's say, versus sitting around and having a conversation about your future and what you're doing and what you're creating and how many people this podcast can get to thinking and encourage and give them confidence, right? To even take a look at real estate investing or take a look at being a podcaster or taking a look at connecting with other people. That's massive impact. And this, gets to live on for years kind of thing, right? So it's efficient time and it's enjoyable and you're able to monetize as well as have a great time, vacation, do everything at the same time. And I don't know about you, but that creates a happy life in my book.
It feels pretty darn good. That is for sure. Something you said very at the beginning of that last answer, I really think is so applicable in every single industry, and that is the ability to duplicate yourself. Yes. I think that is something that people really struggle with, that they don't know how to break down what they know into ways that can be communicated to other people that they can then be picked up and taken through that. So that is an incredible skill to be able to have that. What kind of learning did you have along the way of doing it and saying like, oh, I need to adjust this or that, or like, how did you even figure out the process to be able to do that effectively?
So I'm a product of the Carlton Sheets no down payment method infomercial. I am probably the 3% that purchased it, 1% that actually opened it. And I said, I can do $9.99 a month and give it a whirl for a summer. So you know how like you're going to college and then summertime, you can either go to summer school or you can do something else. So I chose to learn from a millionaire, take it, and I literally did that course that summer. And I said, worst case scenario, maybe I'll have a house for myself, right? Another rental house or whatever. And it worked. And I can tell you what, like I used it over and over. And I remember looking up and I had like 50 properties and it's addictive. Like when you start doing that and it works, I mean, it's one of those things that you just, I don't know, enjoy making the money, enjoy doing it with others. And the cool thing is that my best friend, she was going along with the ride with me, right? So I'm working at the apartment complex. She's actually one of my tenants at the apartment complex. We create this great relationship. Next thing you know, like she's running my company, my side, rental business while I'm at the apartment complex running the apartment complex, right? Because so now she's kind of playing with the small portfolio and then I'm playing with the bigger one. And I kept it fun. Like it was really great being around the people. And it's one of those things when you can replicate yourself when you let people see what you're doing and give them access to be along for the ride. And don't waste your time with the people that aren't interested or are choosing video games over doing things like this. Like, you're only looking for the right people, and those people will show up. So don't worry about the masses or anything like that, because chances are there's only like 10% that are really doing anything. And those are the people that I'm looking for, that I've always been looking for, that I enjoy being around. So replication is that you get to do it with someone side by side.
Well, and I think you hear a lot the phrase like, oh, I'll just do it myself. It's just easier than explaining it to someone. And that's quite the trap, because you say that more than a couple times, and now you've spent the time that you could have explained it to someone doing it yourself, and you're not any further along. So it makes a lot of sense to take that time to be able to actually replicate and duplicate yourself in a sustainable way. But so we were talking before we started the recording of this episode that I found an article that had an interesting topic, which anyone can Google it and find it themselves. I don't want to talk about it on this podcast. But there was a line in there that just astounded me, knowing you now. And of course, this article was written when you were in your 20s, mid 20s. And it said you hoped to retire by the age of 36. Yes. And I read that and I was like, that's hilarious, because you love what you do. So I can't even imagine you retiring. So how did you think that back then to where you are now, and how did you kind of navigate that?
So, financially free at 23, that means that your real estate portfolio is paying for all of your needs, your bills. Like, if you got sick, the rent checks are still coming in and you're covered. You get fired, doesn't matter. You're financially free, because those golden gooses are laying enough eggs, right, to cover your life, right, just for basic necessities. And then when I had the first million at 26, right, the portfolio, I actually, with that, was shooting just to have $1 million in real estate. I didn't realize that I would be netting $1 million, in real estate and everything. And, when I thought about what retirement was, and you hear about it, and I don't think you're really ready to hear about it. Like, people are like, until you're there, like, I know that there's a gradient. Like, everyone gets to be at 5 houses first before I can even have a new conversation with you about something else. Or you're just in survival. You don't know how to make your current rental payment. And so we have one step to get you into, the breathing situation of having some basics covered. Same thing with retirement. So whenever I was like, okay, well, I am done and I'm going to go do this retirement thing. Okay. So what did I do? I'm like, okay, well, let me go ahead and go do this at the country club, because that's what retirement's at, right? Like, everyone ends up at a country club. So I arrived there about 30 years too early. And so it was very interesting, because I started talking with everyone in the country club and just seeing how they all ended up here. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to look like, right? You end up retiring in a country club, and you got plenty of money, and you're surrounded by some great people, and you get to golf all day, you get to drink all day, you get to have massages all day, whatever that kind of looks like for you. And so I did that, and I went on vacation. I think it lasted for about 3 years. Guys, I never thought I would ever be able to say that there is only so many margaritas you can sip on a beach, and there's only so many, there's only so many clothing and dresses you can buy for yourself, and there's only so many X, Y, or Z before you get bored again. Like, you're like, okay, so there is more to life. There's way more to life than, satisfying my ideas of what I thought things should look like. And I got a lot more joy in teaching and guiding people through the process to get financially free. Like, mind you, wealthy people, like my friends and stuff, I know that they're okay. They figured out a lot of things. I'm not necessarily going to all day long shuffle or pound around rich people's money, let's say, right? Like, I find it more impactful for my team and my tenants and people that are not financially free yet to go from 0 to 5 units. And I get to support those newbies, in essence, because the bridge the bridge just isn't there. No one is servicing that area for people, I don't think, in real estate investing. There's not like a school for it. But that's how you get financially free. It's something that everyone gets to know about, learn about, and do, because that's the way it's going to happen. You can't save your way into, you know, the retirement that, you know, I was able to create. And it was specifically done through real estate. And I think everyone kind of realizes, like, do you want to spend 60 years chasing after a paycheck and then realizing you're too old to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? Because then your health is kind of shot or whatever. So why not kind of start your retirement from day one, you know, and pepper everything in and kind of do both, just knowing that retirement is pretty much, in my opinion, the freedom and the choice to wake up and do whatever I want. And
Well,
if you're
I love how you mentioned all the like material things, right? The sipping margaritas on a beach, the clothes, you know, but that's not actually fulfilling. Like so many people think that that's
in the beginning it is. In the beginning, don't get me wrong, in the beginning it
for
is.
sure, but it's not lasting. It's not sustaining. So so that leads me to my next question of how do you define like success? And is there some point in the future where you think I'll be ready to retire when XYZ happens?
I mean, I could just make that decision tomorrow, you know, in regards to doing what's the typical retirement, but why? You know, that's not a very, like, life is a game. We get to play this fun game. And the game now is how many people can I massively impact, right? To be able to create the same results. And whenever, I guess, I come to the realization, you know, that bestowing this knowledge onto other people and seeing that they have more choices, because it limits or it reduces financial suffering. And so whenever I see the basics, and in my profession really humbles me, because when I see people who get evicted over $1,000 rental payment, right, that they just can't generate enough value in the marketplace or figure out a way to generate $1,000 a month to have a roof over their heads for their family, for their children. Or I see people dumping their family members off almost at like places at apartments and stuff, right? And they have nobody else to, I guess, go to or get extra income. Like, I look at all these things and it's humbling. And everyone gets to learn this because it's very easy. Everyone understands buying a rental house and renting it out to someone. It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal. It doesn't have to be a skyscraper. You know, everything that I teach is always 100,000 per unit and below. So, you know, one of my first houses that I purchased was, you know, like a $40,000 house, right? And then $50,000 houses, $20,000 houses, like these things exist. And everybody needs housing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just to kind of tweak that little thing and replicate and help other people realize that they can do it by themselves, or they can do it with us, right? Or they can do it with a group. It's empowering. And for me, it's almost a need, just like breathing, so you can create a life that's worth living. You know, it's a life where you have more freedom to do what you want. And, you know, how nice is it where if someone in your family were to have some type of sickness, you're like, oh, it's cool, we can stroke a check if needed, you know, just like relax. Like, yeah, it's that freedom. And if you're in traffic jam, like, you created that, like, you put yourself in that situation. Now, what if you could have a situation where you set up your life where you didn't have to participate in traffic jams, right? And so I always tell people too, I'm like, when you're at work having that, you know, first cup of coffee in the morning, when you're doing that, think of me. And every single time I was doing that, I said, I got to buy more houses. I've got to buy more houses, because I just want to be able to wake up when I want to wake up, when the sun tells me to wake up, when like if it's midday and I'm just like, I'm not feeling this, I can go do something else. You know, it's that freedom. It's worth it. Totally worth it.
That's a lot of freedom. And I love so much for, I know I'll have all of your social media information in the show notes for this, but I love following you on all the social media channels because you take us behind the scenes of, the everyday realities of where there's mold and there's roaches and there's trash, and it's not so glamorous to do that part. And yet here you are with all of your success, all of the people that you've impacted, and you're still out there doing it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I tell people too, I'm like, if you're really worried about it, if you're really bent out of shape because of a toilet cleaning or, a roach, whatever, it's a phone call. Call the pest guy, call the plumber, call whatever, you know what I mean? It's very simple. And for $1 million, I think you'd get over it. You know what I mean? I think you'd get over it. Like, I mean, my whole thing is like, there's a cost benefit to life. And it's funny because I do have, some people that think that I should not show that. They're worried that, oh, it has the impression that you're working in your business versus on your business. Or, they want it to look like Trump Tower and I'm in front of, a desk all day where people bring me coffee and I just direct people all over the place. And I can tell you this, like, to be successful in real estate, like I really enjoy being there for my team. And also making sure that the residents, who are the biggest players on our team, understand that we're always improving things for them. I want them to stay with us forever. Right. And, it really bothers me that some real estate investors, they don't really like tenants. They don't like tenants, but yet the tenants are the ones paying for their private school. They're paying for their big house. They're paying for their financial freedom, and a waiter that's serving you a $200 steak, is getting a $50 tip, gets better respect or better treatment than a tenant who's paying you thousands of dollars and making you financially free. Right. So I think that, it's real important just for, those realities for people to see and be reminded of what it really looks like. Because, whether you're picking up trash after your tenants, because you happen to be there for inspection, or, you're crossing your multi-million-dollar office building and you see something, a cup left in the hallway, right? Same stuff, same activity. Like you are never above asking other people to do things that you wouldn't do yourself. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I just very open with it. And also for the uppers, right? So our social media, our the things that we do, the people that are brand new can learn from it, but honestly, it's displaying your character to all the higher up people too, the other multimillionaires you want to do business with, maybe even billionaires, because they see that you know how to get things done, you know how to use your time efficiently. And, hey, if you happen to be there, you need to do some things too. You get them done.
Not afraid of hard work.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's not like you have to be there forever doing everything, but you can start the process and, make sure that on your way back to the car, you take a couple handfuls of trash or handfuls of whatever and toss them into the dumpster to help out the contractors, because contractors really do appreciate that you appreciate them. And they're one of the biggest players on your team too, because they're making sure that your tenants are taken care of. And, they also deserve high respect for the work that they do for us.
And that's applicable to anyone in any business. I mean, anyone who has an office business, or a store or something, they have to have people that come in and clean. There's janitorial staff that's making them look good. And it's just having respect and for all humans, we're all humans at the end of the day. And I love that you said that. I know you are a very busy lady and you've got some incredible deals that you are working on. So I appreciate you speaking with us so much. How is the best way for someone to work with you, and who are the kind of people that you love to work with?
I love working with people that are coachable and open, who really are looking to create a change in their life and willing to take responsibility for it, and to look underneath, what's underneath why you haven't started already. Right.
Mm.
So we have a Zoom room. I've had it open for years. It's free. And we meet 3 times a week because we're high performance real estate investors. And it's like a trolley car. People come into the room, people come out of the room. We Q&A. We share resources, we answer questions for everybody, but that's one of the best ways to start building that relationship. I personally look at, is this person someone that I want to have in my life for the next 10 years?
Hmm.
So the way they behave, the way they show up, the way that they conduct themselves in life in general and towards other people, I'm watching, right? And that's what I'm looking for. And one of my partner that I have today, he came from a hobby millionaire room. You know, he saw me speak at a RIA club, and then he came into the Zoom room, and you know, he's now made millions. We have a million, you know, multi-million dollar portfolio. And you know, it happens by building those relationships and showing people, you know, your personality, what you're made of and what you're willing to do, right, to be successful and to complete cycles of action. And whether or not the person's coachable and able to, you know, resist shiny penny syndrome, because
Yes.
we all know there's so many things and distractions in this world, right? That it's really tough to really have tunnel vision and focus these days.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much. If someone's interested in joining the Zoom room, how is the best way for them to do that?
You can find me on Facebook. We post the links and stuff there all the time. The website also hobbymillionaire.com. You can find me on Instagram as well, Hobby Millionaire. But I would say the Facebook page is probably one of the best ways to find us. So Real Estate Hobby Millionaire, Hobby Millionaire Association, and then we're also on Meetup as well. And there's about 10,000 of us, and we're all across the nation. Yeah, it's great. And you know, people sometimes just come to watch, and you're welcome to do that. Some people are wanting to participate and ask questions, because it's kind of interesting, because it's almost like 50-50. Like, we've got 50% millionaires in the room and 50 per and it's still intimate, because I like to keep the rooms like 25 people or less. Otherwise I'll start to have to, you know, open up breakout rooms and stuff like that. So it's really great. That's why we have 3 different meetings, just to keep the intimacy of making sure everyone's heard and seen and can ask questions.
Well, I mean, anyone listening to this definitely needs to go and at least check it out, because you've done such an amazing job of explaining how your process works and being able to show us who you are. And, you know, I love you, and I've never joined one of these, and now I'm definitely going to, because hey, why not? We can always learn and grow, and how we change is how we grow. So
Absolutely.
thank you for
Absolutely.
providing that platform for us.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me here. And I love you. It's so awesome. You know, we'll grow together.
I know. I can't wait till we get to see each other again. For the listeners, thank you so much for being here. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your network. If there's a topic that you're curious about, a type of industry or profession, or a specific person, please reach out. I'd love to hunt them down and have them as a guest on the show in the future. Until next time, everyone, have a great day.